I arrived at my younger brother Tyler's housewarming party wearing my beloved vintage navy wool coat, a treasured memento from my late grandmother. Tyler's new girlfriend, Amber, immediately spotted the worn coat and laughed loudly in front of all the guests, declaring, "Oh my God, are you here to beg for money? You look homeless in that ratty old thing." The room fell silent. My father, Harold, stepped forward, but instead of defending me, he whispered harshly, "Stop being so sensitive, Jennifer. It's just a coat." My heart sank as I realized my own family wouldn't stand up for me. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Amber's laughter echoed through Tyler's new living room as she turned to the other guests with a theatrical gasp. "Oh wait, I'm sorry everyone. I didn't realize we were having a charity case join our celebration tonight." My cheeks burned with embarrassment as I watched the faces around me. These were supposed to be Tyler's friends, people who should have felt uncomfortable with such cruelty. Instead, Marcus, a guy from Tyler's college fraternity, snickered and nudged his girlfriend. Dylan, Tyler's co-worker, actually pulled out his phone and started recording. Stephanie, someone I'd met at family gatherings before, covered her mouth to hide her giggles. "Amber, maybe we should just..." Tyler started weakly, but his girlfriend cut him off with a dismissive wave. "No, Tyler, this is actually perfect timing." She clapped her hands together like she was announcing a game show. "Everyone, I think we should all chip in and help Jennifer here get some new clothes. You know, like a little charity drive for the less fortunate." The words hit me like physical blows. I could feel my grandmother's coat around my shoulders, the soft wool that had comforted me through countless difficult moments. Grandma Rose had worn this coat to her college graduation, to her first job interview, to my grandfather's funeral. It wasn't just clothing, it was family history. "That's actually a wonderful idea," came a voice from behind me. I turned to see my mother, Patricia, walking through the front door, shaking rain from her umbrella. She'd arrived just in time to witness my humiliation, and somehow, impossibly, she was making it worse. "Mom," I breathed, hoping she'd misunderstood the situation. "Jennifer, honey, Amber's right. You really should dress more appropriately for nice occasions like this." Patricia set down her purse and surveyed my outfit with obvious disappointment. "I mean, look around. Everyone else made an effort." I glanced around the room, taking in the designer dresses, expensive suits, and trendy accessories. But none of these people understood what my coat meant. None of them knew that I'd worn it to every major milestone in my life because it made me feel connected to the woman who'd raised me to value character over appearances. "I can't believe Tyler's sister lives like this," Amber whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. She moved closer to Tyler, wrapping her arm around his waist possessively. "Sweetie, you never told me your family had these kinds of problems." Tyler's face flushed red, but not from anger at his girlfriend's cruelty. Instead, he looked embarrassed by me. "Jennifer's always been kind of different," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Amber could say. This was my little brother, the kid I'd helped with homework, driven to soccer practice, protected from bullies. Now he was throwing me under the bus to impress a woman who'd been in his life for barely 6 months. "Different is one way to put it," Marcus chimed in. "I mean, when's the last time you even had a real job, Jennifer?" Before I could answer, Dylan added, "Yeah, Tyler told us you've been struggling for a while. Still driving that old Honda, right?" My Honda Civic was 15 years old, but it was reliable and paid off. I'd kept it because I believed in living below my means, not because I couldn't afford something newer. But explaining that would only invite more mockery. "Look, everyone," Amber announced, moving to the center of the room like a ringmaster. "I know this is supposed to be a housewarming party, but I think we've stumbled onto something really important here. Community service." She gestured toward me with a flourish that made my stomach turn. "Tyler's told me so much about Jennifer's struggles, and I just started this amazing new job at a huge tech company. I'm going to be making serious money, so I think we should all contribute to help Jennifer get back on her feet." The room buzzed with uncomfortable energy. Some guests looked genuinely sympathetic, while others seemed entertained by the drama. I caught fragments of whispered conversations, so sad, and at least she has family support. And I had no idea Tyler's sister was homeless. Homeless. The word made me want to scream. I owned a beautiful townhouse in the suburbs, but apparently wearing a vintage coat was enough to convince everyone that I was destitute. "That's very generous of you, Amber," Harold said, and I could hear the approval in his voice. "Jennifer, you should be grateful that Tyler found such a caring girlfriend. Grateful for being humiliated in front of strangers, for having my character assassinated by someone who'd known me for all of 3 hours, for watching my own parents side with my tormentor. I tried to find my voice to defend myself, or at least excuse myself from this nightmare, but Amber wasn't finished. Oh, and the best part," she continued, practically bouncing with excitement, "is that I just got hired at Innovate Tech Solutions. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's this massive company with offices all over the country. I'm starting as senior marketing coordinator on Monday, and they're giving me a corner office and a company car." Her words hit me like a freight train. Innovate Tech Solutions, the company where I'd spent the last 8 years building my career, working my way up from entry-level analyst to the executive suite. The company where I now served as chief executive officer, though I used my professional name Jennifer Walsh instead of my family name Jennifer Morrison. As Amber continued bragging about her fabricated qualifications and non-existent corner office, I realized the cosmic irony of the situation. This woman who was humiliating me for my appearance and assumed poverty had just unknowingly announced that she'd be working for me come Monday morning. I needed air. I needed space to process what I'd just learned. Excusing myself quietly, I slipped into Tyler's kitchen, hoping for a moment to collect my thoughts. The kitchen was gorgeous granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and a view of his backyard through large windows. Tyler had done well for himself as a software engineer, and I was proud of him, or I had been before tonight. I was examining the intricate backsplash, trying to calm my racing heart, when footsteps approached. I turned to see Harold entering the kitchen with the determined stride I remembered from childhood lectures. "Jennifer, we need to talk." His tone was stern, disappointed the same voice he'd used when I'd come home, late in high school or forgotten to take out the trash. But I was 32 years old now, a successful businesswoman, not a teenager who'd broken curfew. "Dad, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," he interrupted, crossing his arms. "What I see is my daughter embarrassing herself and this family with that ridiculous attachment to the past." He gestured at my coat with obvious distaste. "Your grandmother has been gone for 5 years, Jennifer. 5 years. It's time to grow up and stop living in the past with that old rag." His words felt like a slap. Grandma Rose had been the most important person in my life, the woman who'd taught me everything about resilience, integrity, and staying true to your values. She'd raised me while my parents worked long hours, and her death had left a hole in my heart that I was still learning to live with. "This coat isn't just fabric, Dad, it's a crutch." Patricia's voice joined the conversation as she entered the kitchen. "Honestly, Jennifer, I've been wanting to say this for years. Your grandmother spoiled you terribly, and it's made you incapable of moving forward." I stared at my mother in shock. Patricia had always been a little jealous of my relationship with her mother-in-law, but I'd never realized the depth of her resentment. "She filled your head with all those stories about staying humble and true to your roots." Patricia continued, her voice gaining strength. "But look where it's gotten you. You're 32 and still clinging to hand-me-downs like some kind of security blanket." "Mom, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." She moved closer, her expression a mixture of pity and frustration. "Your grandmother convinced you that material things don't matter, that success is somehow shameful. Well, look around you, Jennifer. Tyler figured out how to make something of himself. He's got this beautiful house, a successful career, and a girlfriend who's clearly going places." The irony was staggering. If Patricia only knew that I'd personally approved the mortgage for Tyler's house through my company's real estate partnership program. If she only knew that Amber's successful career was built on lies and would be over before it began. Tyler's always been smart about these things, Harold added. He told us you've been struggling financially, still driving that old car, living in that tiny apartment. I don't live in an apartment, I said quietly. Well, whatever it is, it clearly isn't working out for you. Patricia opened Tyler's refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of wine like she owned the place. The point is, it's time for some tough love. Maybe this is exactly what you need to finally grow up. Before I could respond, the kitchen door swung open again. Amber entered with the confidence of someone who'd already claimed victory, her eyes scanning the room like she was marking her territory. Oh, family meeting. She smiled sweetly, but I could see the calculation behind her eyes. I hope you don't mind me joining. I mean, I'll practically be family soon anyway. She moved to stand beside Patricia, and I watched my mother actually smile at her with genuine warmth. The same warmth she'd been withholding from me all evening. Amber, dear, we were just having a heart-to-heart with Jennifer, Patricia said, trying to help her see that it's time to make some changes. That's so important. Amber nodded earnestly. Family support makes all the difference. Speaking of which, Jennifer, I was just telling Tyler about my new job and I realized we should probably talk about your situation. She pulled out her phone and started typing. I know some people in HR at smaller companies' places that might be willing to take a chance on someone who's been out of the workforce for a while. I could put in a good word for you. Out of the workforce. The assumption made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay calm. That's very kind of you, but... Oh, it's no problem at all. Amber waved dismissively. I mean, that's what family does, right? We lift each other up. And honestly, once I start at Innovate Tech, I'll have so many connections. I could probably find you something entry-level, maybe in customer service or data entry. She was offering me an entry-level position at my own company. The absurdity was almost too much to bear. You know, Patricia mused, it really is wonderful that Tyler found someone so generous and successful. Amber, tell us more about this new job of yours. Amber's face lit up like a Christmas tree. Oh, well, I probably shouldn't brag, but since we're family... She launched into an elaborate description of her non-existent qualifications, talking about her experience with marketing campaigns. She'd never run clients she'd never met and strategies she'd never developed. As she spoke, I discreetly pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my assistant, Sarah. Need verification on new hire Amanda Rodriguez marketing department starting Monday. The response came back within minutes. Yes, hired Friday. Background check flagged several discrepancies. Reviewing Monday morning. I stared at the message pieces clicking into place. Not only had Amber lied to my family about her qualifications, but she'd apparently lied extensively during the hiring process. As CEO, I had a responsibility to protect my company from fraudulent employees. And they're giving me a corner office on the executive floor, Amber was saying. Right next to all the VPs and directors. My boss said I have real leadership potential. The executive floor, where my office was located, where she would never set foot. I was about to respond when Uncle Robert appeared in the doorway. He was my father's brother, a man I'd always respected for his business acumen and fair-mindedness. Surely he would see through this charade. Jennifer. Robert exclaimed, but his voice carried a tone I'd never heard before pity. Harold told me about your rough patch. Listen, kiddo, we've all been there. The important thing is not to give up hope. Even Uncle Robert had bought into the narrative that I was struggling. Harold must have really done a number on the family narrative. Uncle Robert, I think there's been a confusion. No need to explain, he said gently. Pride can be a good thing, but sometimes we need to swallow it and accept help. Amber here seems like she's really going places. Maybe she can help you get back on your feet. Amber beamed at the praise. I just believe in helping people reach their potential, she said with false modesty. Jennifer clearly has good genes. Look at Tyler. She just needs some guidance and opportunity. She turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Actually, Jennifer, can I talk to you privately for a moment? Patricia and Harold exchanged glances that seemed to say, finally, someone who can talk sense into her. Of course, I managed. Amber gestured toward the back door leading to Tyler's patio. Let's step outside for some fresh air. As we walked onto the wooden deck overlooking Tyler's backyard, I could feel the weight of my grandmother's coat around my shoulders. Grandma Rose would have seen right through Amber's act. She would have known exactly what kind of person hides cruelty behind a helpful smile. The October evening was crisp, and I pulled my coat tighter as Amber closed the door behind us. The moment we were alone, her entire demeanor changed. The sweet, helpful mask fell away, revealing something much darker underneath. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice low and cold. "I don't know what your game is, but I'm going to make this very simple for you." I said nothing, waiting for her to reveal her true intentions. Tyler is mine now. This family is mine now, and I'm not going to let some pathetic charity case drag down my reputation. She stepped closer, her eyes hard as stones. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear from family gatherings. You're going to stop embarrassing Tyler with your presence. And if you're very, very lucky, I might let you see him once or twice a year." The threat was delivered with such casual cruelty that it took my breath away. This wasn't just about the coat or my appearance. This was about power control and eliminating anyone who might threaten her influence over Tyler. "And if I don't?" I asked quietly. Amber's smile was razor sharp. "Then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. Tyler's already half convinced that you're a burden on the family. It wouldn't take much to push him the rest of the way." She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo she'd apparently taken inside a picture of me looking isolated and miserable while the party continued around me. Social media is a powerful thing, Jennifer. One post about Tyler's homeless sister crashing his housewarming party, and your reputation in this family will be finished forever. I stared at the photo, seeing myself through the lens of her cruelty. In the image, I did look out of place, overwhelmed, possibly destitute. Anyone seeing it without context would draw exactly the conclusions Amber intended. "You're a manipulator," I said, finally finding my voice. "I'm a winner," she corrected, "and winners don't let losers drag them down. So what's it going to be, Jennifer, disappear quietly, or watch me destroy what's left of your relationship with your family?" As she spoke, I could see Tyler through the kitchen window laughing with his friends. My little brother, who'd once looked up to me, who'd called me his hero when I'd helped him through his parents' messy divorce. Now he was nodding along as someone systematically planned to cut me out of his life. "I need to think about this," I said. "You have until the end of the party," Amber replied. "After that, the gloves come off." She turned to go back inside but paused at the door. "Oh, and Jennifer, you might want to lose that coat. It's really not doing you any favors." As the door closed behind her, I stood alone on the deck, my grandmother's coat wrapped around me like armor. But for the first time all evening, I wasn't feeling defeated. I was feeling strategic. Because Amber had just made a crucial mistake. She'd revealed her true nature, shown me exactly who she was and what she was capable of. And more importantly, she had no idea who she was dealing with. I pulled out my phone and sent another message to Sarah. "Amanda Rodriguez full background review needed ASAP. Check all references, credentials, everything. Report directly to me first thing Monday." Then I added, "Also need security footage from tonight's hiring celebration. Something tells me this is going to be a very interesting Monday morning." I stood on Tyler's patio for several more minutes, letting the cool October air clear my head while I processed the magnitude of what was happening. Through the kitchen window, I could see Amber holding court surrounded by my parents and Uncle Robert, all of them hanging on her every word. She was describing her fictional corner office in elaborate detail, talking about the view of downtown and her personal parking space. My phone buzzed with another message from Sarah. "Amanda Rodriguez hired for marketing coordinator level 2 entry-level position, shared cubicle space. No corner office, no company car, references currently under review due to inconsistencies." The lies were even more extensive than I'd realized. Not only had Amber fabricated her qualifications, but she was actively deceiving my family about the scope and prestige of her position. A marketing coordinator level 2 was essentially an administrative role with basic responsibilities nowhere near the executive level position she was describing. I sent back, "Forward me her complete application and interview notes. Also check if background verification was completed before hiring." The response came quickly. "Background check delayed due to HR backlog. Scheduled for Monday morning. Application shows employment gaps and degree from institution we can't verify." This was getting worse by the minute. Not only was Amber a manipulative person targeting my family, but she appeared to be a fraudulent employee who had slipped through our hiring process during a busy period. I took a deep breath and walked back into the house. The party had shifted into the living room where Tyler was giving a tour of his new furniture and entertainment system. I tried to blend into the background, observing how Amber continued to work the room. "Jennifer," Tyler called out when he spotted me. "Come check out the sound system. I got it on sale last month." I joined the group gathered around his massive television and surround sound setup. Tyler was genuinely excited, and for a moment he seemed like the little brother I remembered, enthusiastic, eager to share his accomplishments, looking for approval from someone he cared about. "It's beautiful, Tyler," I said honestly. "You've done an amazing job with this place." "Thanks, sis." He grinned, and I saw a flicker of our old connection. "Remember when we used to save up for months just to buy a single CD? I remember." I smiled back. "You played that Green Day album so many times I thought Mom was going to throw it out the window." "Oh my God, yes," Tyler laughed. "And you always let me borrow your good headphones even though I never gave them back." For a moment, the warmth between us felt genuine. But then Amber appeared at Tyler's side, slipping her arm through his with practiced possessiveness. "That's so sweet," she said, but there was an edge to her voice. "Tyler told me you two used to be close before things got complicated." The moment shattered. I could see Tyler's expression shift, remembering his girlfriend's narrative about his embarrassing sister. "Speaking of complications," Harold interjected, approaching our group with Patricia in tow, "Jennifer, your mother and I have been talking, and we think it might be best if you head home soon. It's getting late, and I'm sure Tyler wants to enjoy his party." I glanced at my watch. It was barely 8:30. "Dad, I don't think—" "Actually," Amber interrupted, "before Jennifer leaves, I have an announcement to make." She positioned herself in the center of the room and raised her voice. "Everyone, can I have your attention for just a moment?" The conversations died down as guests turned toward her. She was clearly comfortable being the center of attention, radiating confidence and charm. "I wanted to share some exciting news with Tyler's family and friends," she began. "As some of you know, I just started a fantastic new position at Innovate Tech Solutions. It's a huge opportunity for me, and I'm so grateful." She paused for effect, letting the anticipation build. "But the really exciting part is that they've invited me to attend a board meeting on Monday as part of my orientation process. Apparently, they want me to meet the executive team and get a feel for the company culture at the highest level." My blood ran cold. There was a board meeting on Monday. I would be leading it. It was our quarterly review session with department heads, and absolutely no entry-level employees would be in attendance. "That's incredible, honey," Tyler said, beaming with pride. "I can't believe they're including you in board meetings already." "Well," Amber said with false modesty, "they told me I have real executive potential. I guess they want to fast-track my development." Uncle Robert whistled in appreciation. "That's serious corporate recognition, young lady. You must have really impressed them during the interview process." "I like to think I bring a unique perspective," Amber replied smoothly. "My background in strategic marketing and client relations really sets me apart." I bit my tongue, knowing that her actual background included a series of retail jobs and a questionable degree from an online institution that might not even exist. "Jennifer," Patricia said pointedly, "isn't this exactly the kind of opportunity you should be pursuing? Maybe you should ask Amber for some career advice." The suggestion felt like another deliberate humiliation. Here was my own mother asking me to seek career guidance from someone who had literally just been hired for an entry-level position at my own company. "I'm actually quite happy with my current situation," I said carefully. "What situation is that exactly?" Dylan asked with genuine curiosity. "Tyler mentioned you work in tech, too." Before I could answer, Amber jumped in. "Oh, Jennifer's been doing some freelance work, haven't you?" Her tone was patronizing, like she was helping a child explain their finger painting project. "It's really brave how you've been trying to build something on your own." Freelance work. She was rewriting my career in real time, turning my executive position into unemployment disguised as entrepreneurship. "That's not exactly," I began. "The gig economy can be so unpredictable," Amber continued sympathetically. "One day you have projects, the next day you're scrambling to find work. It's why I'm so grateful to have found stability with Innovate Tech." Marcus nodded knowingly. "My cousin tried the freelance thing for a while. Really tough way to make a living. Which is why I think Jennifer should seriously consider that customer service position I mentioned," Amber said, turning to address me directly. "It might not be glamorous, but it's steady income and benefits. Sometimes we have to take a step back to move forward." A step back. At my own company. The woman who would be unemployed by Tuesday morning was offering me career advice about accepting demotion to an entry-level position. "And who knows?" she added brightly. "If you work really hard and prove yourself, maybe in a few years, you could advance to something like my current level." A few years to reach her current level, which was unemployment, though she didn't know it yet. "Amber's right," Tyler said earnestly. "Maybe it's time to be more realistic about your career goals, Jennifer. Not everyone can have the kind of success she's having." The words hit me like a physical blow. My own brother was telling me to lower my expectations and be grateful for whatever scraps his girlfriend might throw my way. "You know what I love about Innovate Tech?" Amber was saying to the group. "It's a company that really values talent and vision. They're not interested in people who just coast along or make excuses. They want innovators, leaders, people who can think strategically." She was describing qualities that ironically had earned me the CEO position she thought was so far beyond my reach. "That's probably why they're involving me in the board meeting," she continued. "They can tell I'm not just another employee, I'm someone with real leadership potential." "Will you meet the CEO?" Stephanie asked, clearly impressed by the corporate intrigue. Amber's eyes lit up. "Actually, yes, I'll be presenting some of my initial ideas directly to the executive team, including the CEO. It's a huge honor for someone in my position." She would be presenting ideas to me. The cosmic absurdity of the situation was almost overwhelming. "What's the CEO like?" Tyler asked. "I've always wondered what kind of person runs a company that size." "Well, I haven't met them yet," Amber said. "But I've heard they're very traditional. Old-school business approach, not very innovative. Between you and me, I think the company could benefit from some fresh thinking." She was calling me traditional and non-innovative. This woman, who had never held a real corporate position, was criticizing the leadership style that had grown the company by 300% over the past 5 years. "I have some ideas that could really shake things up," she continued confidently. "Sometimes outsiders can see opportunities that insiders miss." "That's so smart," Patricia said admiringly. "Jennifer, you should really listen to how Amber thinks about these things. This is what professional ambition looks like." Professional ambition. My mother was lecturing me about professional ambition while praising someone whose professional experience consisted primarily of fabrications and retail work. "I should probably start preparing for Monday," Amber announced. "I want to make sure my presentation is absolutely perfect. First impressions matter so much in corporate environments." First impressions indeed, and Amber was about to make a very memorable one when she discovered that the traditional, non-innovative CEO she planned to impress was the same woman she'd been humiliating all evening. "That's very wise," Uncle Robert said approvingly. "Preparation is key in business." "Absolutely," Amber agreed. "In fact, I should probably do some research on the current leadership team. Understand their backgrounds, their management styles, what motivates them." She was going to research me. This would be interesting. Speaking of preparation, Harold said, "Jennifer, I think it's time you started preparing for some changes in your own life. Maybe use Amber as inspiration for what's possible when you really apply yourself." The implication was clear. I had never really applied myself, never achieved anything worthy of respect or recognition. My own father was holding up my future employee as an example of what I should strive to become. "I'll definitely keep that in mind," I said quietly. But as I stood there in my grandmother's coat, surrounded by family members who were praising my future employee while dismissing my actual accomplishments, I realized that Monday morning was going to be more than just a board meeting. It was going to be a day of reckoning. The party continued around me like a surreal nightmare where everyone had agreed to participate in an alternate reality. Amber had seamlessly positioned herself as the evening success story, while I'd become the cautionary tale about what happens when you don't have proper ambition or professional guidance. "You know," Amber announced to the room, "I feel like tonight is really about celebrating new beginnings. Tyler's beautiful new home, my exciting career opportunity, and maybe even a fresh start for Jennifer." She gestured toward me with the kind of benevolent smile usually reserved for charity telethons. I was just thinking, what if we made this into something really special? A kind of community effort to help Jennifer get back on track. My stomach dropped as I realized where this was headed. "What do you mean?" Tyler asked, though he was smiling like he already approved of whatever his girlfriend was planning. "Well, look around this room," Amber said, spreading her arms wide. "We have successful people here, professionals, people with connections, resources. Instead of just talking about helping Jennifer, why don't we actually do something concrete?" She pulled out her phone with a flourish. "I'm going to start a little collection. Nothing huge, just whatever people feel comfortable contributing. We can call it Jennifer's Fresh Start Fund." The humiliation was so complete, so thoroughly orchestrated, that for a moment I couldn't even process what was happening. She was literally passing the hat for me, treating me like a homeless person begging for change. "Amber, that's incredibly thoughtful," Patricia said, reaching for her purse. "Jennifer, you should be so grateful to have someone like this in the family." "I really don't think this is necessary," I started, but Harold cut me off. "Jennifer, for once in your life, just accept help gracefully. This is exactly the kind of humility you need to learn." He pulled out his wallet and handed Amber a $20 bill. "Here's a start. Maybe this will help you understand what real generosity looks like." Real generosity. My father was lecturing me about generosity while forcing me to accept charity I didn't need from people who were celebrating my supposed failures. "Dad, please, this is ridiculous." "What's ridiculous?" Uncle Robert interrupted, adding his own contribution to Amber's collection, "is watching you struggle with pride when people are trying to help you." One by one, the party guests began contributing money. Marcus threw in a 10, Dylan added 15. Stephanie contributed $25 with a sympathetic smile. Even people I'd never met before were reaching into their wallets, apparently convinced that they were participating in a noble act of community service. "This is so beautiful," Amber said, her voice thick with fake emotion. "This is what family means. This is what community means. Coming together to lift up someone who's fallen on hard times." Tyler watched the money accumulate in Amber's hands with obvious pride. "Babe, you're incredible. I can't believe how big your heart is." "I just believe that we all have a responsibility to take care of each other," Amber replied, somehow managing to look humble while orchestrating my public degradation, especially family. She turned to address the room like she was delivering a speech at a charity gala. "You know, when I first met Jennifer tonight, I'll admit I was surprised by her situation. But then I realized this is exactly why I'm so passionate about helping people reach their potential." The room listened with rapt attention as Amber painted herself as a philanthropist and me as her pet project. At my new job, I'm going to be working with executive leadership to develop mentorship programs for underprivileged individuals. People who just need someone to believe in them, to show them what's possible when you combine hard work with the right opportunities. She was describing corporate charity programs while actively humiliating the person who actually ran those programs at my company. Jennifer, she continued looking at me with practiced compassion. I want you to know that this money isn't charity. It's an investment in your future, in your potential, in the person I know you can become. The applause that followed felt like a slap. These people were applauding my humiliation, celebrating what they saw as Amber's generosity and my supposed salvation. Speech, someone called out. Oh, I couldn't. Amber protested with false modesty, but she was already positioning herself to address the crowd. Well, if you insist, she said, accepting a wine glass from Tyler. I just want to say how moved I am by everyone's generosity tonight. But more than that, I'm inspired by the opportunity to make a real difference in someone's life. She raised her glass toward me. Jennifer, I know this might feel uncomfortable right now, but I want you to think of this as the first day of your new life. A life where you don't have to struggle alone, where you have people who believe in your potential, even when you don't believe in it yourself. The crowd murmured, appreciatively charmed by what they perceived as her wisdom and compassion. And Tyler. She turned to my brother with tears actually forming in her eyes. Thank you for trusting me with your family. It means everything to me that you'd include me in something so personal, so important. Tyler actually wiped away a tear. Amber, you're exactly the kind of person I want in my life. Someone who cares about others. Someone who sees the good in people even when they can't see it themselves. That's what love is, Amber said softly. Love is seeing potential where others see problems. It's believing in transformation, in second chances, in the power of community to change lives. She was quoting greeting card philosophy while systematically destroying my relationship with my family, and they were eating it up like she was delivering the Sermon on the Mount. So let's raise our glasses. She concluded, to new beginnings, to fresh starts, and to the power of family to lift each other up. To Jennifer's new beginning, Tyler called out. To Jennifer, the room chorused, raising their glasses in a toast to my supposed redemption. I stood there holding my wine glass, feeling like I was at my own funeral. Everyone was celebrating my transformation from family member to charity case, toasting what they believed was my first step toward becoming a productive member of society. Jennifer, Amber said, approaching me with the collected money, I want to present this to you as a symbol of how much your family cares about you. She held out the bills with ceremonial gravity like she was presenting me with an award for being the evening's most pitiable person. I really can't accept this, I said quietly. Of course you can, Harold insisted. This is exactly what you need, people who care enough to invest in your future. Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, he said firmly. I understand that you've been too proud to ask for help, and now help is being offered freely. Take it, Jennifer. Take it, and start building the life you should have had years ago. The life I should have had. According to my father, the life I'd actually built, the company I'd grown, the success I'd achieved, the financial security I'd earned, wasn't the life I should have had. The life I should have had was the one where I gratefully accepted charity from entry-level employees who lied on their job applications. This is getting uncomfortable for her, someone whispered. Maybe she's not used to accepting help. Pride can be such a destructive thing, someone else murmured, especially when you've been struggling for so long. They were analyzing my reluctance to accept their money as a character flaw, evidence of the destructive pride that had supposedly led to my downfall. Jennifer, Tyler said gently, just take it okay. Let us do this for you. Let Amber do this for you. Amber stepped closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. Take the money, Jennifer. Show everyone how grateful you are. Show them that you know your place. Know my place. She was making it clear that this wasn't about helping me. It was about establishing hierarchy, demonstrating that she was the benefactor and I was the beneficiary, that she held the power to determine my worth and my future. And Jennifer, she added, still speaking quietly, I hope you understand that this generosity comes with expectations. People who invest in you deserve to see returns on that investment. They deserve to see real change, real gratitude, real commitment to becoming the person they believe you can be. She was setting up conditions for the charity creating ongoing obligations that would keep me indebted to her performance of generosity. I think I need some air, I said, but Amber caught my arm. Actually, before you go, there's one more thing, she announced to the room. I've been thinking about Jennifer's situation, and I realized that this Fresh Start Fund is just the beginning. What Jennifer really needs is ongoing support, accountability, guidance from someone who understands what it takes to succeed in today's professional world. She paused, dramatically building suspense. So I want to offer to become Jennifer's mentor, to help her navigate the job market, improve her professional image, develop the skills she'll need to build a sustainable career. A mentor, the woman who would be fired from my company for fraudulent hiring practices, wanted to become my professional mentor. Amber, that's incredibly generous of you, Patricia said, clearly moved by what she saw as an extraordinary act of sisterly love. It's what family does, Amber replied. And Jennifer, I want you to know that I'm committed to this. I'm going to help you become the best version of yourself, even if it takes years of hard work. Years of hard work, under her guidance, subject to her judgment and approval. What do you say, sis? Tyler asked. Ready to let Amber help you turn your life around. Turn my life around, as if my life needed turning around, as if the successful career I'd built, the company I'd grown, the financial independence I'd achieved, were somehow wrong turns that needed correcting. I looked around the room at these people, my family, my brother's friends, strangers who'd been convinced to participate in my humiliation, and realized that this moment would define everything that came after. I could accept the money submit to Amber's mentorship, play the role of grateful charity case, while she systematically destroyed my relationship with my family and my sense of self-worth. Or I could reveal the truth. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the expectant silence, there's something I need to tell all of you, something that's going to change how you see this entire evening. Amber's confident smile faltered slightly. Jennifer, now might not be the best time. Now is exactly the right time, I said, pulling out my phone. Tyler, can I borrow your laptop for a moment? I have something I need to show everyone. Tyler looked confused but nodded. Sure, it's on the kitchen counter. As I walked toward the kitchen, I could feel Amber's eyes burning into my back. She knew something had shifted, that the narrative she'd so carefully constructed was about to crumble. But she had no idea how spectacular that crumble was going to be. I returned to the living room with Tyler's laptop, my heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and anticipation. The party guests had arranged themselves in a loose semicircle, clearly expecting some kind of emotional acceptance speech or grateful acknowledgement of their collective generosity. Amber stood at Tyler's side, still holding the collection of money, but I could see uncertainty creeping into her expression. She sensed that something fundamental was shifting, though she couldn't quite identify what. Everyone, I said, my voice steady despite the magnitude of what I was about to reveal. Before I respond to this incredibly generous offer, I think you should know exactly who I am and what I do for a living. I opened Tyler's laptop and connected it to his large television screen. Tyler, what's your Wi-Fi password? It's housewarming 2023, he said, looking confused. Jennifer, what are you doing? I'm providing some context that I think will help everyone understand the situation a little better. I logged into my executive account at Innovate Tech Solutions, making sure the company logo was clearly visible on the screen as I navigated to the employee portal. The distinctive blue and silver branding filled Tyler's massive television, impossible to ignore. Innovate Tech Solutions, I said clearly. Amber's new employer, the company where she'll be starting her exciting new position on Monday morning. Murmurs rippled through the room as guests began to realize that this wasn't going to be the tearful acceptance speech they'd been expecting. Now, Amber, you mentioned that you'd be attending a board meeting as part of your orientation, meeting the executive team, even presenting ideas to the CEO, correct? Amber's face had gone pale, but she managed to nod. Yes, that's what they told me. Interesting, I said, pulling up the company organizational chart. Because according to our meeting schedule, the only board meeting this Monday is our quarterly executive review. Let me show you who will be attending. I displayed the list of attendees: Chief Executive Officer Jennifer Walsh, Chief Financial Officer David Chen, Chief Operations Officer Maria Santos, and the 5 vice presidents of our major divisions. Notice anything about this list, Amber? She stared at the screen, clearly trying to process what she was seeing, but not quite connecting the dots. Let me help you out. I continued navigating to the executive profile page. This is our Chief Executive Officer, Jennifer Walsh. My professional headshot appeared on the screen, a polished corporate portrait that looked nothing like the casual, coat-wearing woman they'd been pitying all evening. In the photo, I was wearing a sleek black business suit, my hair styled professionally, exuding the confidence and authority that came with 8 years of executive leadership. The room fell completely silent. Jennifer Walsh. I repeated slowly, is the name I use professionally. It's my grandmother's maiden name, which I adopted when I started at Innovate Tech to honor her memory and create some separation between my family life and my corporate responsibilities. Tyler's laptop slipped from his hands, clattering onto the coffee table. Jennifer, what? I don't understand. Let me make it crystal clear, I said, turning to face the room. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Innovate Tech Solutions. I have been for the past 3 years, and I've worked at the company for 8 years, total building it from a mid-sized regional firm into a national corporation with offices in 12 states. Patricia had gone completely white. Harold was staring at the screen like he was trying to solve a complex mathematical equation. Uncle Robert was slowly shaking his head in disbelief. But how? Amber's voice came out as a whisper. You're wearing that old coat. You drive that Honda. I wear my grandmother's coat because it reminds me of the values she taught me, I said calmly. Humility, integrity, staying connected to your roots no matter how much success you achieve. I drive a Honda because it's reliable and paid off, and I believe in living below my means rather than flaunting my wealth. I clicked to the company's financial reports displaying our annual revenue figures. Innovate Tech Solutions generated $437 million in revenue last year. We employ over 2,000 people across the country, and every major strategic decision for this company comes through my office. This can't be real, Dylan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Oh, it's very real, I replied, navigating to the Human Resources portal. In fact, let me show you something else that's real. Amber, you mentioned your corner office, your company car, your position as Senior Marketing Coordinator. I pulled up the employment records, making sure her name was clearly visible on the screen. Amanda Rodriguez hired Friday for Marketing Coordinator Level 2. Starting salary $42,000 annually. Office assignment shared cubicle space in the general marketing pool. Company car none. Parking assignment employee lot. No reserved space. The lies were laid bare in stark official detail. Every fabrication she'd used to elevate her status was contradicted by the actual hiring records. Level 2 Coordinator. I continued, is an entry-level administrative position. Responsibilities include data entry, basic customer communications, and administrative support for higher-level marketing initiatives. No corner office, no executive responsibilities, no board meeting invitations. Amber was trembling now, the collected money still clutched in her hands, like evidence of her deception. This has to be some kind of mistake. No mistake, I said, pulling up her application materials. But there are several interesting discrepancies in your hiring file that my assistant flagged for review. I displayed her resume on the screen, highlighting the inconsistencies that Sarah had identified. Your claimed degree from Northwestern University. They have no record of your enrollment. Your previous position as marketing manager at Denver Digital Solutions, that company went out of business 2 years before your claimed employment dates. Your references. 2 of them don't exist, and the third is your former roommate pretending to be a supervisor. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in Tyler's kitchen. So when you mentioned conducting research on the current leadership team to prepare for Monday, I continued, you would have discovered that the traditional non-innovative CEO you plan to impress with your fresh thinking is the same woman you've been humiliating all evening for wearing her grandmother's coat. Harold finally found his voice. Jennifer, why didn't you tell us? Tell you what, Dad? That I'd worked my way up from an entry-level analyst to CEO, I tried to multiple times tonight. But every time I started to explain my actual situation, someone cut me off to lecture me about humility or offer me career advice. I turned to address the entire room. You all made assumptions based on my appearance, my car, my coat. You decided I was struggling financially and professionally without bothering to ask about my actual circumstances. And worse, you celebrated those assumptions. You turned my supposed failures into entertainment. Patricia was staring at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. We thought... Tyler said what exactly? I asked, genuinely curious about how this narrative had developed. My brother looked like he wanted to disappear into the furniture. I just thought, you never talked about work, you drove that old car, you always seemed so... So what? So modest, I guess, normal, not like someone who was running a major corporation. And you concluded from my modesty that I was failing at life. Tyler had no answer for that. I turned back to Amber, who was still clutching the charity money like a life preserver. As for your mentorship offer, I appreciate the thought, but I'm afraid I'll be rather busy on Monday morning reviewing your employment file with our Human Resources Department. You can't fire me for this, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Actually, I can't fire you for humiliating me at a party, I clarified. But I absolutely can terminate your employment for falsifying your application, providing fraudulent references, and misrepresenting your qualifications during the hiring process. Those are serious violations of corporate policy and potentially criminal fraud. The money slipped from her hands' bills, scattering across Tyler's new hardwood floors, like confetti from a celebration that had gone horribly wrong. Jennifer, please, Tyler said, stepping forward. Don't punish Amber because we made mistakes tonight. I looked at my little brother, really looked at him, seeing the conflict in his face between loyalty to his girlfriend and the dawning realization of what he'd participated in. Tyler, this isn't about punishment. This is about protecting my company from employees who lie about their qualifications. If Amber had been honest during the hiring process, if she'd presented her real credentials and experience, she might have been hired for a position that matched her actual skills. Instead, she chose deception. And frankly, I continued, after watching how she's treated me tonight, the manipulation, the calculated cruelty, the systematic humiliation, do you really think she's the kind of person you want representing your company's values? Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Jennifer, I think I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. We all do, Patricia said quietly, finally looking up. Honey, I don't understand why you never told us about your success. I considered the question carefully, because success shouldn't change how family treats each other, because Grandma Rose taught me that character matters more than titles or salaries, because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I've achieved professionally. I gestured toward my coat. This coat has been to every major milestone in my career. I wore it to my first job interview at Innovate Tech. I wore it the day I was promoted to department head. I wore it to the board meeting where they named me CEO. It's not a symbol of poverty or failure. It's a reminder of the values that got me where I am today. The room remained silent, processing the complete reversal of everything they'd believed about the evening. So, I said, my voice carrying a slight edge for the first time, does anyone still think I need career advice? The silence stretched on until I could practically hear everyone's worldview reshuffling itself. Tyler stood frozen next to his scattered coffee table, staring alternately at the financial report still displayed on his television and at me, as if he couldn't quite reconcile the sister he'd dismissed with the CEO, whose achievements were spelled out in corporate documentation. "Jennifer," he finally whispered, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "You had no idea because you never asked," I replied calmly. "You made assumptions, Tyler. We all make assumptions sometimes, but tonight you acted on those assumptions in ways that hurt people." Amber had sunk into Tyler's leather armchair, her face buried in her hands. The confidence and cruelty that had defined her all evening had evaporated, leaving behind someone who looked very young and very frightened. The fraudulent application alone is grounds for immediate termination. I continued addressing her directly, but Innovate Tech also has strict policies about character and integrity. We don't employ people who deliberately deceive others or who demonstrate patterns of manipulative behavior. "Please," she said, looking up with tears streaming down her face. "I need this job. I've been out of work for 6 months. I was desperate." Desperation doesn't justify deception, Amber, and it certainly doesn't justify the way you've treated me tonight. Harold stepped forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Jennifer, surely we can work something out. Family is family and—" "Dad, stop." My voice was sharp enough to cut through his attempted intervention. "You don't get to play the family card now. You had the opportunity to treat me like family tonight, and instead you chose to lecture me about humility while watching someone systematically humiliate me." I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Sarah, it's Jennifer. I need you to prepare termination paperwork for Amanda Rodriguez effective immediately. Yes, I know it's Saturday evening. Fraud, misrepresentation, character issues. Have security remove her access cards first thing Monday morning." The call was brief and professional, but its impact on the room was immediate. This wasn't a threat or a bluff. It was executive action being taken in real time. "You're destroying my life over a misunderstanding," Amber said desperately. "I'm protecting my company from an employee who lied to get hired and then revealed herself to be manipulative and cruel. This isn't about tonight's misunderstanding. It's about the pattern of deception that started with your application." Tyler moved toward Amber protectively. "Jennifer, isn't this a little extreme? I mean, yes, she made mistakes tonight, but—" "Tyler, let me ask you something," I interrupted. "If you discovered that someone on your development team had lied on their resume, falsified their references, and then demonstrated manipulative behavior toward colleagues, what would you do?" He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. As a software engineer, he understood professional standards and the importance of trust in team environments. "Exactly," I said. "Professional integrity isn't optional. Character matters in business relationships just like it matters in personal ones." Uncle Robert had been quietly observing the exchange, and now he spoke up. "Jennifer's absolutely right. In my 40 years in business, I've learned that you can teach someone skills, but you can't teach them character." "Thank you, Uncle Robert." I appreciated his support even if it was coming rather late in the evening. Patricia approached hesitantly. "Honey, I know we messed up tonight, badly. But is there any way to handle this situation without completely destroying Amber's future?" I considered the question carefully. Mom Amber destroyed her own future the moment she decided to build her application on lies. I didn't create the situation, I'm just responsible for responding to it appropriately. "But surely—" "Let me ask you this," I said, turning to address the entire room. "How many of you would want to work with someone who lies about their qualifications? How many of you would trust someone who demonstrates the kind of calculated cruelty we saw tonight?" No one answered, but several people looked uncomfortable with the implications. "Amber, you had multiple opportunities tonight to show grace, kindness, or even basic human decency. Instead, you chose to humiliate someone you perceived as vulnerable. You organized a charity collection to maximize my embarrassment. You threatened to isolate me from my family unless I submitted to your control. These aren't the actions of someone who made simple mistakes. These are the actions of someone with serious character problems. I was just trying to fit in, she said weakly. I wanted your family to like me. You tried to fit in by putting someone else down. You tried to make yourself look good by making me look bad. That's not relationship building, that's manipulation. Tyler was looking increasingly uncomfortable as he began to recognize the patterns I was describing. Amber, is that really what you were doing? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt my stomach drop. Actually, Tyler, there's something else you should know. I showed him the message from Sarah. Background check on Amanda Rodriguez reveals ongoing relationship with Marcus Williams listed as character reference, but actually romantic partner. Both provided false information about her employment history. Tyler read the message, then looked up at Marcus with dawning realization. You two know each other. Marcus had gone very pale. Tyler, I can explain. Marcus has been dating Amber for the past 8 months, I said quietly. According to our security investigation, they've been living together in his apartment downtown, the corner office and company car she bragged about. They were planning to use her employment at my company to fraudulently obtain corporate credit and benefits. The revelation hit the room like a bomb. Tyler stared at Amber in complete shock, then at Marcus, who was edging toward the door like he was planning to flee. 8 months! Tyler's voice cracked. But we've been together for 6 months. You told me you'd never been serious with anyone. Amber was sobbing now, the careful facade completely destroyed. Tyler, it's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, Marcus said suddenly, his voice harsh with desperation. Fine, you want the truth. Amber and I have been together for over a year. This whole thing with you was her idea. She thought dating Tyler Morrison would give her social connections, help her get better jobs. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Not only had Amber been deceiving my brother about her relationship status, but their entire romance had been a calculated strategy to advance her career and social position. She said your family had money. Marcus continued, apparently deciding that if he was going down, he'd take Amber with him. She thought if she could get close to Tyler, maybe get engaged, she'd have access to better opportunities, better connections. Tyler sank into a chair, his face ashen. You've been using me this entire time. Tyler, no. Amber said desperately, it started that way, but then I really fell for you. Stop lying, I said firmly. Just stop. You've lied enough for one evening. I turned to address Marcus. And you were complicit in fraud. You provided false references, helped her deceive my company's hiring process. You could face criminal charges for this. Marcus was already backing toward the door. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just supposed to be a fake reference, help her get a better job. It's conspiracy to commit fraud, I said. And if you leave now, I'll assume you're fleeing to avoid prosecution. He stopped moving toward the door, realizing that his situation was far worse than he'd understood. The room felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Tyler sat in stunned silence, processing the revelation that his girlfriend had been using him while carrying on a relationship with his friend. Amber continued sobbing, her manipulative confidence completely shattered. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear entirely. Well, Uncle Robert said finally, this evening has certainly been educational. Patricia was staring at Amber with a mixture of disgust and pity. All of this, the kindness, the mentorship, offer the charity collection. It was all fake. All of it, I confirmed. Amber saw an opportunity to humiliate someone she perceived as weak, and she took it. She turned my supposed poverty into entertainment, and my family's love into a weapon against me. Harold had been unusually quiet during these revelations, but now he approached me with genuine remorse in his eyes. Jennifer, I don't know how to apologize for this, for my part in this. I should have defended you. I should have seen what was happening. Dad, you should have known me well enough to question the narrative, I said gently but firmly. You've known me for 32 years. Did you really believe I was the kind of person who would struggle professionally for years without asking for help? Did you really think I was irresponsible with money or lacking in ambition? He shook his head slowly. When you put it that way, no. No, I should have known better. The worst part, I continued, is that you all seem to enjoy believing I was failing. It was easier to accept Amber's story about my struggles than to consider that maybe I had my life more together than any of you realized. Tyler looked up from his chair, his eyes red-rimmed. Jennifer, I don't know how to fix this. With you, with everything. Tyler, we'll figure out how to rebuild our relationship. But first you need to process what happened here tonight. You need to understand that you chose to trust someone you'd known for 6 months over someone who's been your sister your entire life. He nodded miserably. I know I did. I looked around the room one final time, taking in the scattered money on the floor, the shocked faces, the complete reversal of the evening's power dynamics. I think, I said quietly, it's time for me to go home. But as I moved toward the door, Amber's voice stopped me. Wait, she said, struggling to compose herself. Before you go, before you destroy everything, can I at least explain why? I paused my hand on the doorknob. Why what? Why I did this? Why I became this person? Despite everything she'd put me through, something in her voice made me turn around. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the hope that understanding her motivations might help me process the evening's events. Go ahead, I said. Explain. Amber wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and took a shaky breath. For the first time all evening, she seemed to drop her performance entirely, revealing something raw and vulnerable underneath. I grew up poor, she began quietly. Really poor. The kind of poor where you wear the same clothes to school every day and pretend you're not hungry because there's no food at home. I watched my mother work 3 jobs just to keep us in a tiny apartment, and I promised myself I'd never live that way again. The room listened in silence, the weight of her confession shifting the energy from anger to something more complex. When I graduated high school, I was supposed to be the one who made it out. Full scholarship to community college plans to transfer to a 4-year school, dreams of a real career. But my mom got sick during my 2nd year, and I had to drop out to take care of her. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each person as she continued. For the next 10 years, I worked retail jobs, restaurant jobs, anything that would pay the bills while I watched my mom slowly die of cancer. By the time she passed away last year, I was 28 years old with no degree, no real work experience, and no prospects. Tyler's expression had softened despite his hurt and anger. Amber, why didn't you just tell me this? Because I was ashamed, she said simply. Because when I met you, I saw this successful guy with a loving family, and I knew that if you found out who I really was, where I came from, what my life had been like, you'd never stay with me. She turned to me, her voice stronger now. And when I walked in here tonight and saw someone who I thought had everything I wanted, but was throwing it away by dressing down and acting modest, I guess I lost my mind with jealousy. The honesty was startling after hours of manipulation and lies. I found myself reassessing not just Amber's actions, but the desperation that had driven them. I convinced myself that you were privileged and ungrateful, she continued. I told myself that someone who had a family like this, who could afford to be modest about their success, deserved to be taken down a peg. It was cruel and it was wrong, but in that moment, it felt like justice. So you decided to humiliate me to make yourself feel better, I asked. I decided to humiliate someone I thought had never struggled for anything in their life, someone I thought had been handed opportunities I could only dream of. She shook her head. I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. Uncle Robert spoke up. Amber, what you've been through is genuinely difficult, but hardship doesn't excuse cruelty. I know that, she said. I know it doesn't excuse what I did tonight. I let my pain turn me into someone I don't recognize, someone my mother would be ashamed of. The mention of her mother seemed to hit her particularly hard, and she began crying again, not the manipulative tears from earlier, but genuine grief and regret. "Jennifer," she said, looking directly at me, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I've destroyed any chance of employment at your company, any relationship with your family, any future with Tyler. But I need you to know that seeing your success, your real success, has shown me something about myself that I don't like." She gestured toward my coat. "You wear your grandmother's coat because it connects you to values that matter. I lied about everything because I thought values were a luxury I couldn't afford. But watching you tonight, seeing how you handled this situation with dignity even when your own family was against you, that's the kind of person I should have tried to become." I studied her face, looking for signs of continued manipulation, but found only exhaustion and genuine remorse. "Amber," I said carefully, "I appreciate your honesty. I understand that you've faced real hardships, and I'm sorry for your losses. But understanding your motivations doesn't change the professional consequences of your actions." "I know." She nodded. "I accept that I'll be terminated on Monday. I accept that I've burned bridges with Tyler and your family. I wanted you to know that this isn't who I really am. Or at least, it's not who I want to be." Tyler had been listening to this exchange with growing confusion and pain. "Amber, if you'd just been honest with me from the beginning, you would have tried to help me," she finished, "and I would have felt like a charity case. The irony isn't lost on me that I was willing to make Jennifer feel like a charity case to avoid feeling that way myself." She stood up slowly and began collecting the scattered money from the floor. "This belongs to you," she said to me. "It was collected under false pretenses, and you shouldn't have been subjected to that humiliation. Keep it," I said. "You'll need it while you're looking for new employment." "I can't, it's not right." "Amber, let me ask you something. If you could really start over with honesty instead of deception, what would you want to do professionally?" She looked surprised by the question. I don't know. I mean, I'm good with people when I'm not being horrible to them. I have retail experience, customer service skills. I actually did take some marketing classes at community college before I had to drop out. I considered this information carefully. Innovate Tech partners with several community colleges and trade schools for job training programs. These programs help people develop real skills and earn legitimate credentials. They're designed for people who've faced educational or employment challenges. "Jennifer," Tyler said quietly, "what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that while Amber's employment with Innovate Tech is terminated due to her fraudulent application, there might be a path forward if she's willing to do the work honestly." Amber stared at me in disbelief. "You would help me after what I did tonight." "I'm not helping you," I clarified. "I'm offering information about programs that exist for people who want to build legitimate careers through honest effort. Whether you take advantage of those programs is entirely up to you." I pulled out my business card and wrote a name and phone number on the back. "This is Dr. Sarah Martinez. She runs our community partnership program. If you're serious about making real changes, and I mean serious about honesty, hard work, and personal growth, call her next week." Amber took the card with trembling hands. "Why would you do this?" "Because my grandmother taught me that everyone deserves a second chance if they're willing to earn it. But Amber, this isn't a favor. This isn't charity. If you enter one of these programs, you'll have to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. You'll have to prove yourself every single day, and there will be no shortcuts, no deception, no manipulation." "I understand," she said quietly. "I hope you do, because if I ever discover that you've lied or cheated in any program associated with my company, there won't be a third chance." Tyler watched this exchange with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. "Jennifer, I don't understand how you can be so generous after everything that happened tonight." I looked at my brother, really looked at him, seeing both the man he'd become and traces of the boy I'd helped raise. "Tyler, Grandma Rose used to say that forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing who you want to be going forward. I gestured toward my coat again. This coat has seen me through job interviews, board meetings, difficult negotiations, and family gatherings. But you know what it's never seen? It's never seen me treat someone else the way I was treated tonight, no matter how much they might have deserved it. Patricia spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. Jennifer, how do we fix this? How do we fix what we did to you tonight? I considered her question carefully. Mom, you start by examining why you were so quick to believe the worst about me. You start by asking yourself why Amber's version of my life seemed more believable than the possibility that I was successful and happy. I think, Harold added quietly, we were guilty of taking you for granted. You've always been so self-sufficient, so modest about your achievements that we forgot to actually pay attention to what you were achieving. Dad, I chose to be modest because I wanted to be loved for who I am, not what I do professionally. But modesty shouldn't be mistaken for failure, and humility shouldn't be confused with weakness. Uncle Robert nodded thoughtfully. You know, Jennifer, watching you handle this situation tonight has been remarkable. You could have destroyed everyone in this room, but instead you chose justice tempered with mercy. Uncle Robert, I learned a long time ago that how you treat people when you have power over them says more about your character than how you behave when you're powerless. I looked around the room one final time, taking in the faces of people who'd learned something important about assumptions, family, and character. I'm gonna head home now, I announced. Tyler, when you're ready to have a real conversation about rebuilding our relationship, call me. But make sure you're ready to listen as much as you talk. I will, he promised. Jennifer, I'm so sorry for all of it. I know you are. And I love you, which is why this hurts so much and why it's worth fixing. I moved toward the door again, but Patricia's voice stopped me. Jennifer, wait. Your grandmother's coat. Would you tell me about it? I mean, really tell me about it? I paused, touching the soft wool. Grandma Rose bought this coat in 1962 with her first paycheck from her first real job. She wore it to every important moment in her life: job interviews, graduations, her wedding, my grandfather's funeral. She told me it was her armor, her connection to the values that mattered most. I smiled, remembering her words. She said that true success wasn't about accumulating things or impressing people. It was about staying true to yourself while lifting others up. She said that if you could wear the same coat to a corporate boardroom and a family dinner and feel equally comfortable in both places, you'd figured out what really mattered in life. And what really matters? Tyler asked. Character, integrity, treating people with dignity regardless of their circumstances, building success on honest effort rather than deception, using your advantages to help others rather than to elevate yourself at their expense. Amber spoke up one last time. Jennifer, I promise I'll try to become the kind of person who deserves the second chance you've offered. Don't make promises, Amber, just make choices. Every day make the choice to be honest, kind, and hardworking. Let your actions speak louder than your promises. I opened the door and stepped out into the crisp October evening, my grandmother's coat warm around my shoulders. As I walked toward my Honda Civic, my reliable, practical, paid-off Honda Civic, I felt something I hadn't experienced in hours. Peace. Not because I'd won some kind of victory over people who'd wronged me, but because I'd managed to stay true to the values that coat represented. I'd faced humiliation and betrayal, but I'd responded with truth and justice, tempered by mercy. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Security flagged 3 more inconsistencies in Rodriguez file. Legal recommends full investigation Monday morning. I typed back, proceed with termination as discussed, but also send Dr. Martinez information about our community partnership programs. Someone may be calling about educational opportunities. As I drove home through the quiet suburban streets, I thought about the evening's lessons, about the danger of assumptions, about the importance of character over appearances, about the difference between helping someone and enabling someone. But mostly I thought about my grandmother's words. Jennifer, remember that how you treat people when you have power over them says everything about who you really are. Tonight, I discovered exactly who I really was. And despite everything that had happened, I was proud of that person. The woman wearing her grandmother's coat, driving her practical Honda, leading a multi-million-dollar corporation with integrity and grace. The woman who understood that true success isn't about what you accumulate, but about who you become in the process of achieving it. The woman who knew that sometimes the greatest victory is maintaining your dignity, while everyone around you loses theirs. As I pulled into my driveway, the driveway of the beautiful townhouse I owned outright, I realized that this evening had been a gift in disguise. It had shown me the strength of my values, the importance of staying connected to my roots, and the power of responding to cruelty with truth and justice. My grandmother would have been proud, and that I realized was the only approval that had ever really mattered. Have you ever experienced a situation where people made assumptions about you based on your appearance or circumstances? How did you handle it, and what did you learn about yourself in the process? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you've dealt with similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with others who might benefit from this message about staying true to your values, regardless of how others perceive you. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about overcoming adversity and finding strength in unexpected places. Remember, true success isn't measured by what others think of you, but by how well you live according to your own values and principles. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have the courage to wear your own version of my grandmother's coat, whatever that might be, with pride and dignity.